pilots navigate between 2 points. So Rod is going to tell us how that happens today. This is speech number 2 from the Competent Communicator Manual. So the objective of Rod's speech is to organize your speech. His speech is titled Aircraft Navigation. So please give a warm welcome to Rod Nelson.
Thank you. Have you ever wondered how pilots navigate when you're flying in an aircraft? They can, if the day is clear, the pilot can look out the window and see what's going on. If the pilot is in the clouds or above the clouds, how do they do it then? There are 3 ways that we're going to look at today. One is looking out the window. One is using a standard airway, and the third is direct flight. If the pilot is looking out the window, he will have a chart similar to this, which he has drawn his course on, and he will follow that, and then as he's going along, he will look at, or he or she will look at what is on the ground, compare that to what's on this chart. This is a VFR chart, Visual Flying Rules. This chart has a lot of detail on it that you can pick up: rivers, roads, towers, antennas. In order to fly in VFR weather, visual flight weather, the pilot needs to have at least 3 miles of visibility and be clear of the clouds, both horizontally and vertically. The recommendation for 3 miles visibility is very difficult, and still try and find your way across the ground using a chart. Visibility of 7 to 10 miles is much better. Now if the plane is flying at, let's say, 30,000 feet, details on the ground get really hard to find, really hard to see at that altitude. If the pilot is, or if the plane is above the clouds, it's impossible to see what's on the ground. When that happens, then we start following airways. We have a chart like this, which also has the airways plotted on it, but all of the detail has been eliminated, because when you're flying above the clouds or in the clouds, you don't need all that detail. It just confuses things. The points that a pilot would use to fly to are VORs. A VOR is a radio transmitter located on the ground that has a signal that's sent out. The pilot picks up the signal from a radio and follows that from one point to another. VOR, by the way, stands for VHF Omni Range. The other point that is indicated on the chart are intersections. The intersections are where 2 radials will cross from 2 different VORs. The point is just a point in space. It has a latitude and longitude and a name. That's what we use to fly to. The VOR itself, physically on the ground, is a rectangular, square-shaped building, 1 story, red and white checked. It has an antenna that sticks out of the top that has the shape of an upside-down ice cream cone, an inverted ice cream cone. Most VORs are located at airports or near airports. In the case of Jackson, Michigan, the VOR is located right at the airport. in Lansing, it's 6 miles away from the airport. Most commercial pilots, most commercial flights use that type of navigation. The third type of navigation that we're going to look at is direct. This has come about because of the GPS units that are now in the planes that many people are flying with. GPS in a plane is very similar to what you have in the car. It's a moving map. You don't have the streets, obviously. You do have a line that you follow from point A to point B. GPS in the plane also can give you vertical guidance when you're descending from altitude to an airport in the clouds. It can tell you if you're going too far, too fast, or not fast enough. The use of GPS or direct flight depends really on where you are in the country. If you're on the East Coast in a real heavy congested area, you'll pretty much be flying on the airways. They don't like to use direct flight. In Michigan, you're pretty much allowed to use direct flight whenever you can because we don't have that much traffic. In conclusion, looking out the window and comparing a route of flight to a chart is the most work when navigating a course and also the easiest way to get lost. Therefore, is the least preferred. Navigating by standard airway is the standard that has been in effect for years and years. Now, the preferred way, if you can, is to go direct with a GPS unit. So next time you're on a flight, let's say maybe an hour into a 3-hour flight, and you feel a plane change course, that is probably because you've come to the end of that segment of the course. It's come to an intersection or a VOR, and the plane has to change course to stay within the airway. There are ways of tracking flights on www.flightaware.com. If anybody has ever been there, they'll know what I'm talking about. But FlightAware has a method of tracking flights. This is kind of small, I can pass it around. This was an actual flight from Midway, Chicago to Lansing. There you go, that's it.
All right, now we'll take a minute to evaluate